It's for my 10 seconds. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Councillor James Pasternak. I'm the Chair of North York Community Council. I'll be chairing today's meeting. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, and I will call meeting 31 to order. Welcome, everyone. To a member of many communities, a happy Passover, a happy Easter, and Ramadan Mubarak. Today's meeting is being held in with members of council and city staff participating by both video conference and in person at North York Civic Center in the council chamber. It is great to be back. The North York Civic Center is once again open to the public, and anyone is welcome to attend the meeting in the council chamber today. The public may continue to participate electronically by video conference. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. The clerk staff have connected remote public speakers to the meeting by video conference, and there are public speakers in the room with us today. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the North York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. I ask everyone for their patience with any delays or technical issues. Members, the city clerk has provided all agenda materials at toronto.ca/council or on CMP, the clerk's portal. Clerk's IT staff will be available to members in the chamber and remotely if you need help with your devices. As part of each agenda item, I will ask members to raise their hand or unmute their mic if they wish to question staff or speak. I will then create a speakers list and call on members when it is their turn to speak. When voting on an item or a motion, I ask that members ensure that their video is turned on and to raise their hand to indicate their vote. Members, this is a paperless meeting, although I have a lot of paper in front of me. And I want to remind you that you must still submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at nycc@toronto.ca to help with your motions. Although we are in different locations today, the committee would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate the item, number, and the nature of the interest. I do not hear or see any. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on February the 23rd, 2022? Councillor Carroll. Moved by Councillor Carroll. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So I understand that we have from the clerk 3 new business items. Can I please ask members to, I'm going to ask members to introduce their items and move a motion to add it to the agenda. Councillor Cole, you're asking for a reopening of item NY 30.27, accessible parking space, Esgore Drive. Did you want to move a motion to add it to the agenda? I'll move it on your behalf. All those who favor adding to this agenda, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor Fillion, demolition applications for 51 Drury Avenue and 8 to 28 Inez Court.
Yes, that's an urgent item. I'll move to add it to the agenda.
Okay. All those in favor of adding this to the agenda? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Fillion, 5210 Yonge Street, designation of a street vending location for Flip Kitchen. Just a motion to add this to the agenda.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councillor Fillion. All those in favor? Opposed? Opposed? That is carried. So we've added those 3 items to the agenda. We'll deal with them a little later. Okay, let's go through the annotated agenda and look for untimed items. We have a number of items on the agenda that are timed. We'll get to those a little later. We'll start at NY 3112, 515 to 521 Coldstream Avenue, zoning bylaw amendment application, preliminary report. Councillor Cole. How would you like to?
Counselor Cole, unmute.
Counselor Cole, I think you're muted.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to move staff report for
Okay.
to call a community meeting for May 2nd.
Okay, thank you very much. Counselor Cole is moving NY 3112, 515, 521 Coldstream. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 3113, 2402 to 2418 Dufferin Street, and a series of other addresses on Ramsden Road, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment. Counselor Cole, how would you like to proceed?
I'd just like to hold that, okay?
Okay, item 13 is held. Item 14, 3300 Dufferin Street, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment applications. Counselor Cole?
Can I hold that too?
Okay, we can hold that. Just a reminder, we have 42 items today. We have a lot of business to take care of. NY 3115, series of addresses on Marley, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment.
I'd like to hold this other development. They're trying to build Singapore within my riding here. I'm holding that too.
Councillor Cole, I'd be happy to hold it, but just a reminder, we have 42 items on today's agenda. And this is this.
Well, it's not my fault that we're planning the whole city here in my ward, but.
No,
Okay.
Actually, I beat you both.
I don't think so.
I've got more than 10 items, more than 10 development applications on this
Okay.
agenda.
Mr.
Maybe
Chair,
you're
it's not a
right. This
company.
Yeah,
meeting.
all right. Order. Okay, Councillor
it's a
Cole will hold the item.
race to the bottom.
It would be great if you could move some items. 3116, 1141 Roselawn Avenue, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment. Councillor Cole.
I want to hold that too.
Maybe you could speak to them all together. It's the same thing he wants to say.
The vice chair has made a great suggestion that when you speak to all the items at once and we can move them as a package. Just a suggestion. All right, item number 17, 2439 to 2441 Bayview Avenue, zoning bylaw amendment application. Preliminary report, we have speakers. We're going to hold that item. 3118, 133, 141 Erskine. Councillor Robinson. This is a housing demolition application, preliminary report. Oh. Yeah, zoning.
Yeah, I'll, you know what? oh, sorry, can you hear me? I'll move that.
Okay, good. That's a relief. Okay, all those in favor, moved by Councillor Robinson. It's community consultation, opposed. That is carried. 3119, 22 to 36 Greenbrier Road. Preliminary report, Councillor Carroll.
I do not need to hold this. We've already agreed on a consultation area. This is a very well-organized group to deal with growth, so there'll be a broad community consultation. I can move the staff recommendations today.
Well, thank you, Councillor Carroll. That's how you get a meeting done. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 3120, 2135 Shepherd Avenue East, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment application, preliminary report. Once again, Councillor Carroll.
Yep, yeah, I can move the staff recommendations because this is a re-app, and we're going to use the same notice area we used first time, and we're going to require them to go back to the community, not go to Committee of Adjustments. So let's proceed with the consultation.
This is perfect. Okay, the item is moved. 2135 Shepherd Avenue East, community consultation. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 3121, a series of addresses on Churchill Avenue, zoning bylaw amendment, application preliminary report. This is Counselor Fillion.
I'll move the staff recommendations on this obnoxious application.
All right, I guess that's one way of putting it. Okay, Counselor Fillion has moved the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 3122, 500 Shepherd Avenue East, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application. Counselor Fillion?
I'll move the staff recommendations to hold a community meeting so we can make sure that everyone is alerted to this application, which following approval at the OMB a few years ago is coming back for not one tower, but two at much higher height and densities than was previously approved.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Thank you, Counselor Fillion. You can always count on the OMB to make life simple for counselors. All those in favor?
Point of order, there's no more OMB. Can we clarify that, please?
Yes, no, but yes, you are correct. It's OLT, but I think this actually went to what was then the OMB.
But is now
Okay,
before
no,
the
Counselor
Ontario
Cole, no, thank
Provincial
you.
Land
Yeah,
Tribunal.
no, okay, thank you for that clarification. I stand corrected on what is currently taking place. Counselor Fillion has moved staff recommendations on item 22. All those in favor? I don't see any hands. I don't see any hands. Some hands should go up. Okay. Opposed? That is carried. Item number 23, 6167 Young Street, 10 Newton Drive, and 9 Madawaska Avenue, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw application. Counselor Fillion.
I'll move the staff recommendations with a word of advice to the applicant to work with staff on this one if they would like to purchase the city laneway.
Okay, all right. Counselor Fillion has moved staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 24, 6200 Young Street, 11 to 15 Moore Park Avenue, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, preliminary report. Counselor Fillion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Sorry, we do have speakers listed on this item. So we're going to hold it. 24 we're holding. 3125, 6212 to 66 Young Street, official plan amendment application. Counselor Fillion?
Yeah, you know what? I have so many of these. I'm having trouble distinguishing this from the one next door to it, but I will move the staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved by Counselor Fillion. All those in favor?
Oh, sorry. No, I do know this is Centerpoint Mall. I need to hold this for a friendly motion.
Okay, the item's being held, and the clerk has your motion? Or you're still working on it?
No, still working on it. We'll
Okay.
have to come back to this one.
Right, okay, yeah, she's shaking her head. She does not have it yet. NY 3126, construction staging area, 1100 Shepherd Avenue West. This is mine. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 3127, parking amendments, Bombay Avenue. This is my ward. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 3128, parking amendments, Crest Haven Drive. Counselor Carroll?
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendations. This is to ameliorate a school traffic jam.
Okay. There was a day when kids walked to school. Yes. Oh, now, if I ever asked my parents for a ride to school, I'd be like, I got it. Okay, so staff recommendations moved on item 28 by Counselor Carroll. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 3129, parking amendments, Glen Park Avenue. Counselor Cole.
Yes, again, this is another a safety improvement for access and egress to a condo in the Glen Park and Avenue in Bathurst, and I'll move staff recommendation.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on item 29, parking amendments, Glen Park Avenue. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 3130, parking amendments, Glen Rush Boulevard and Frontenac Avenue. Counselor Cole?
Yes, this has been an ongoing community safety issue for the children attending Yeshiva Yeshoda HaTorah School on Glen Rush, and we've worked with the rabbi and the parents, and we're trying to make this safer for the drop-off and pickup of children at this beautiful new school, but we've got traffic issues. So this is an attempt to help rectify this traffic challenge here on Glen Rush. So I'll move the staff recommendation for NY 31.30.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on parking amendments, Glen Rush Boulevard and Frontenac Avenue. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 3131, accessible parking spaces, Whitmore Avenue. Counselor Cole?
Yes, I'll move staff recommendation. This is to request installation of on-street accessible parking spaces on Whitmore Avenue, and I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, Counselor Cole's moving staff recommendations.
31.31.
Right, staff recommendations on Whitmore Avenue. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 3132, permanent closure of portions of Inez Court for incorporation to a proposed development in a future park. Counselor Fillion?
I'll move this with thanks to staff for getting this done.
Okay, Counselor Fillion is moving the staff recommendations for the permanent closure of portions of Inez Court. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. (3133) designation of fire routes on a series of addresses. It is Deputy Mayor Minna-Wong. Yeah, hi. Would you like to move these?
I'd be pleased to do such a thing.
Okay, great, thank you. By the way, are you on some kind of Arctic trek? Or,
Oh, no, I'm having windows put in my house, so it's really cold.
okay, well, when you get on the verge of hypothermia, give us a call. Oh my gosh, okay, well, as long as you're staying warm. Okay, Deputy Mayor Minna-Wong has moved number 33, designation of a series of fire routes. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 34, also more designation of fire routes, a series of addresses on Leslie, Winford, Roywood, and 20 and 30 in on the park. Deputy Mayor Minna-Wong, would you like to move staff rec? Yep. Yeah? That's a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to move staff recommendation.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on item 34, a series of fire routes. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 35, endorsement of event for liquor licensing purpose. I've been advised, Counselor Carroll, I've been advised that you have a motion.
Yes, because it's an options report, so I have a motion to amend the recommendations to include the details. In attachment one, I think the clerk is going to post them. This is the annual adoption of the permit for Armenian Summerfest.
All righty, the motion is on the screen.
Oh, it disappeared.
Hold on, can you put that motion up again?
It was
I
on,
just wanna quickly
yeah, if we could keep it up on the screen for a little longer. Everyone had a chance to take a look at it?
Okay,
Okay, we're good? All right. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? That is carried. The item is amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 36, appointment of public members to the North York Community Preservation Panel. This involves all of us. And I will get the vice chair to move this unless there's, I don't see any speakers on the item. Counselor Carroll, would you move item 36, please? Public appointments?
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendations as contained in both the public and confidential attachment.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I'm proud to see a member of Downsview is on this as well. We're very excited to see Rosanna Iaboni is the name I recognize as a very active member of the Downsview community. So all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Okay.
I think the rest are timed items. And then we can go back to the, oh, sorry. We can deal with item number 41. Yeah, so we're going to need a vote to reopen. It was the added item, accessible parking space on Esgore Drive. So we need a vote to reopen, and I will need to see hands in the air. So all those in favor of reopening this item? Five in favor. I don't know, Deputy Mayor, are you opposed or in favor?
Oh.
Okay. All right, it's unanimous to reopen. Okay, Counselor Cole,
Yes.
did you want to move these recommendations? Are there any,
I'll move
there any-
staff recommendation.
all right, are there any questions for, I should ask, are there any questions for staff?
No.
Okay, no questions for staff. Any speakers? Counselor Cole?
Move staff recommendation.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We can also do, item 42 is not timed. Demolition applications for 51.
Actually, it says here it is.
No,
It says 10:30 in the CFP.
on the annotated, there's no time. A walk-on item, a time?
Just going by the CFP, whichever you want to go by.
Yeah, it's a walk-on item, so it wouldn't be timed. Okay, so this is demolition application to 51 Drury and 8 to 28 Inez Court. Any questions for staff? Speakers?
Move the recommendations is just to, there's a demolition permit that wasn't ready for today that is tied in with the development application. So it's just asking staff to report to council. So we get it done in time.
All right, okay, thank you, Councillor Fillion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And I think we can, 43, hold down 43. Okay, so that takes care of the untimed items, although a series.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, Councillor Cole.
Yes, Councillor Cole.
There's an item there, 31.40, North York, removal of private tree, 37 Bentworth. I've been told the best thing is to ask that this item be withdrawn.
It's a timed item at 10:30, and we can withdraw it in about half an hour.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. So let's go to the top of the agenda. We'll go to item 31.1. 3621 Dufferin Street, zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision, final report. Any questions for staff?
Okay, which item is this again?
Oh, I do apologize. I believe the applicant has registered to speak. Do we have them on the line? Where's my speakers list? David McKay, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Pasternak. My name is David Mackay. I'm the registered professional planner with MHBC, and I represent the applicant, Diamond Capital. I just wanted to, I have provided a brief presentation, but I understand you are have a lot of items to deal with. So that is for your information. But I just wish to thank staff for their hard work on this. We have had a very collaborative approach to moving forward this unique development that involves 4 separate land uses mixed into one building: residential, storage, retail, and office, as well as contributes significantly to revitalizing this area of your ward, including an over-dedication and creation of a new park, as well as a new public street, and creating a very urban environment at this currently vacant and underutilized corner. So with that, I won't take up any more of your...
is going to help realize.
I think you misspoke. You said Dufferin Wilson. That's Dufferin Eglinton, right?
No.
Perhaps it's Al Rozowski. Perhaps through the chair, I can add some information. We had 3 regeneration areas north of Highway 401. We had Tippett Road. We had the Dufferin Wilson regeneration area and the Murray Road regeneration area. This was part of the Dufferin Wilson regeneration area, which resulted in a site and area specific official plan amendment. And I would also highlight that this site will be subject to a larger study, which is underway, which is the reopening of the Dufferin, of the Downsview area secondary plan. So it will be part of that exercise.
Yes. Okay. Let me get this straight. Which item are we referring to here? Mr. Chairman?
Councillor Cole, we're at 31.1. It's 3621 Dufferin Street. This is a Dufferin and Wilson, just to the west of the sort of the Billy Bishop area, the Costco.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. No. Listen, I've got so many developments here. We don't know where we're going here, but anyways, I was thinking this is referring to the one further down Dufferin in my ward. Excuse me. I'll wait for comments on my development further down the street.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for staff on this item? Speakers? Okay, I'm going to speak and hold the item down. We're waiting on a technical amendment from staff. We do have the choice of moving it up to council without that technical amendment, but I'd rather send it as a complete package. So we're just going to hold it down for a short while, but when we do get that motion, we'll move it quickly. Moving on, 1377 Shepherd Avenue West, plan of subdivision application report. We have 2 deputants David Anselmi from Canada Lands. Is he on the line?
Mr. Chair,
David?
thank you.
David, nice to hear you.
Likewise. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of Northbrook Community Council. I'm David Anselmi, Senior Director, Real Estate with Canada Lands Company. We're responsible for the planning and development of the Downsview lands. And just to be clear, those are those lands adjacent to Downsview Park, but obviously not including Downsview Park. No development there, of course. I'm here this morning with our planning consultant to be available to staff in the event that there are questions that we can assist with. Otherwise, I'm really just here to thank staff for leaning in on the project and helping us, and also to thank Northbrook Community Council members for their considered view of the item. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I won't take up any more of the committee's time.
Thank you, David. Any questions for the deputant? I do not see any. Thank you very much, David. Michael Keane, Principal Planning and Development, FO10.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair. I will be even briefer than David. I'm a registered professional planner in the province of Ontario, and I have been assisting with this application. Similarly, very thankful for staff's time and effort. Work closely with them in this application. Simply registered today out of an abundance of caution. We are in support of staff's recommendations on this project and are simply registered to assist staff should any questions arise. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for the deputant? I don't see any. Thank you very much, Michael. That concludes the deputants on this item. Any questions for staff? Okay, I don't see any. I'd be happy to move the staff recommendations. No, this is 3. Okay, we're at 1377 Shepherd Avenue West, Plan of Subdivision Application, Final Report. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
To the chair, this is the host. We have a call-in user we would like to identify with your permission, please.
I'm sorry, you have a deputant on the line?
We have a call-in user. We don't have a name, and we need to find out who they are in case they are a registered speaker on an item.
Okay. Okay, sure.
This is the host to call-in user 647-500. We are unmuting your line. If you can let us know if you're a registered speaker on an item, please.
Good morning. My name is Adrian Tomei. I'm speaking on behalf of 6 The Bridle Path. It is number, the address, bear with me, is it's 31.17.
31.17. And sorry, you said your name was?
Adrian Tomei, representative for 6 The Bridle Path.
Understood. Thank you. We'll leave you on mute until your name and item are called.
Thank you.
All right, they'll have to sit tight for a while. I jumped over 31-147 Overbrook because we were waiting on a technical amendment, which I now have. So it's a blended amendment of some technical issues on bylaws, and as well as some sort of motherhood issues as we go forward. Any questions for staff at 147 Overbrook Place? Any speakers other than me? All right, so I would ask the clerk to put the motion on the screen. So the first part of it is some bylaw amendments with some, with a series of numbers and references. There's a motion, some amendments at the bottom. There was debate during the application process over whether the last townhome on the end would face Shaftesbury or Overbrook. We've clarified with both staff and with the applicant that it's to all face Overbrook. There was haggling back and forth over a sidewalk. I think what was negotiated at the end was the applicant is to build a sidewalk to the property line, at least, and then of course the gate of the adjoining property. And they're to work, the applicant and the adjoining property is to work on a privacy buffer along the south line. It's secured through things such as landscaping, window placement, and or other design options in consultation with the local ward councillor. So that's the motion. Whether anyone has any questions for staff on this or the mover, I'll leave it to you.
I do have one question.
For the mover or for staff?
For the mover, so is the intention, the amendment you're moving, the intention is it goes to council with a supplementary report, but agreed in principle, or is it going without recommendations if we adopt this?
No, we're adopting the staff recommendations, and the top part of the motion you see are technical legal items which staff have supplied the clerk and asked me to move, which I'm happy to do so. The bottom part are just clarification over some negotiating principles that took place over a long period of time to make sure there's clarity at council.
Okay. With the draft zoning bylaw to be forwarded to council, so it will be adopted there? Okay. Okay,
I think, I'm getting the nod from the clerk. I think we're good with this. But if there are other questions, or if you want to question staff, we can vary the procedure, that's fine. All right, we're done. Any other speakers? Okay, we can put this motion on the screen. We need some people to turn their videos on. Members? Oh.
here we go.
Yeah, I see.
We're back up to
We
4.
do have quorum, okay. If we can put the motion on the screen. There we go.
Okay.
All righty, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. The item is amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we're off to item number 4, timed item 1629 Shepherd Avenue West. We do have speakers on the item. Darren Hanna. Oh, wait a minute. Usually the applicant goes first. Adrian Levitsky is the applicant, or the applicant's representative. I would put them first. Yeah, they're on the line? Okay, Adam?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Adrian?
Yes.
Adrian, thank you very much. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Adrian Latavsky, and I am a planning consultant, and I've been retained by the applicant to assist them in securing their zoning bylaw amendment. I should also point out that Mr. Hanna, Darren, is also with me. He is the designer who has been responsible for putting together the design that's before you today. I intend to be very brief, understanding, of course, that you do have a very large agenda ahead of you. But this is really an appropriate and smartly designed, I believe, 7-unit residential development, 6 semi-detached units and 1 fully detached unit. There'll be 3 stories with a rooftop deck. and they'll have direct access from Shepherd. There will be no access from the adjoining streets. But in a nutshell, this is a rare project, I believe, of relatively affordable, 4-bedroom, family-sized units built pretty much directly on a transit route there on Shepherd Avenue West. This project will have excellent access to transit, both along Shepherd Avenue. It's only about 600 meters west of the Keele Shepherd intersection, and there's fairly direct access as well by bus to the Downsview Park GO and TTC station. I think it's very well positioned. It's an appropriate intensification. And having said all that, we're here to gladly support staff's recommendation. We appreciate all of staff's efforts to move this forward. It's been a good working relationship. We thank them. And otherwise, I am here, and Darren is here as well to answer any question that you, the council, may have, or other members of the public. I understand there is one other speaker registered today, and we're happy to hear from them.
Yes, thank you very much, Adrian. We do have questions for you. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, just one quick question. There's some pretty significant outstanding reports that you need to complete before the actual bills can be drawn up for this, that all have to do with stormwater runoff and infrastructure, big concerns for the community. Do you anticipate any difficulty in meeting that requirement?
I don't believe so. This project has been under review for some time. It was actually first submitted in February of 2016. I should also point out that this is not the only planning approval that's required. It's the only one that has to come for you, council. It's a zoning bylaw amendment, of course, but there is also a site plan application underway and under review right now. And these requirements are being, so the engineering requirements that you address will be addressed through that process.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for the deputant? I don't see any. Okay. Adrian, thank you very much. Do we have Darren Hanna on the line? Darren, are you?
Council.
Yeah, you're there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. Thanks
I'm here
very
to
much.
support the.
Yes,
Yep,
thank
I
you.
just want to support the, any questions. I'm here as well.
Oh, you're with the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Hanna? No? Okay, thank you very much. Third Deputant, Alan Binsley? We do not have him on the line? No? Okay.
Well, so Mr. Chair, having been the only one who asked questions of the applicant, if there are no speakers, we're well past the timing of the timed item. So I'll move staff recommendations since I was the one with questions of the applicant, if you like.
Right. Well, let me just make sure, double check to see whether any members have questions for staff. I don't see any. In fact, I don't see any members. I don't know, the view must be on or something.
We need a quorum call again.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
there's
Okay,
Councilman Awad.
all right.
Oh.
They have flooded back to their screens. We're good to go. I'll ask one final time. Are there any questions for staff on this item? No? Okay. I believe Councillor Carroll is moving staff recommendations.
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 5. 196 Valley Road, zoning bylaw amendment, that final report. We have one speaker listed. I believe it's the applicant, Todd Drodell. Yeah, they are. Todd, are you on the line?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, thanks. I'll be very brief. I'm Todd Trudell with Goldberg Group, the applicant and planning consultant on this file. Just wanted to take the opportunity to thank staff for working cooperatively with us to reach this point. We fully support the staff recommendation, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Any questions for the deputant? I think this is Councillor Robinson's ward. Okay. Any questions for staff? No?
Oh, here's Councillor Robinson. There's the local councillor.
Yes, Councillor Robinson, you had questions for staff or are you on the speakers?
No, I don't. I don't. Sorry,
No.
just remind me the address.
It's 196 Valley Road.
Yeah, I'm going to move staff recommendations.
Okay, so we're on, no questions for staff?
This is your smallest one today.
Alrighty, okay. So, we have one speaker. Councillor Robinson's moving staff recommendations. Any other speakers on the item?
Nope, we're going to a vote.
Okay. Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 31-6, 105 Shepherd Avenue East, 2426 Leona Drive. I have one deputant on this item, Rohan Sovig of Malone Givens Parsons. That sounds like the applicant. Yes, Rohan? You're on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Perfect. Good morning. My name is Rohan Servig, planner at Malone Givens Parsons. I'm here representing Leona Shepherd Inc. For the OPA and ZBA applications before you. I've read through the staff report, which I think they did a great job of summarizing proposed development and how it meets the evolving planning policy context for this area along Shepherd Avenue East. I want to thank staff on working collaboratively on this project, which I think will be a much welcomed addition to the neighborhood. As such, I agree with the staff recommendations to approve both the OPA and the ZBA. With that being said, if there are any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Any questions for the deputant? No, I don't see any. Thank you very much, Rohan. Questions for staff? I don't see any. Speakers? Yeah. Councillor Fillion, are you, what's your plan here?
Sorry, I need to hold this one down.
All right. Do you have a motion coming or?
I will, yes, but I don't
Okay.
have it ready yet.
So does the clerk have it or? Not yet?
No,
Not yet.
no,
Okay.
I'm gonna be a bit of time. I'm juggling a number of things at once here.
Okay. Item 8, 500 Duplex Avenue. We have 3 deputants. Mark Winfield. Is Mr. Winfield, Mr. Winfield, you're on the line? Mr. Winfield?
Muted. Oh, here we go. Thank you.
All right, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mark Winfield. I'm a resident of Edith Drive in the ward affected here, actually on the same block as the proposal in question. I'm also a member of the board of directors of the Eglinton Park Residents Association and also on the steering committee of the 500 Duplex Coalition, which is a
Hi,
group,
Mark. It's Jay. How are you?
which is a coalition of
Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Robinson, you might
need
want to
to
mute your mic, please. Okay.
Are we good?
Yeah, Mark, continue.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. which is a coalition of resident associations and tenants associations and building associations that come together to oppose this project. I'm also a professor of environmental and urban change at York University. The site has a long history, and the development of the existing tower was very controversial at the time, was seen to be completely out of place with the gentle density character of the surrounding neighborhood. I think the one good thing that's come out of this has been the strength of the relationship between the residents of the tower and the community around it, who now have kind of come to see ourselves as friends and neighbors. You will see in the file the very strong community opposition to this project on a wide variety of grounds, including very strongly from the tenants of the existing building. Want to thank staff for their work around this, and we strongly support the conclusion of the planning report. I would emphasize the importance of this case. It's been described by one of the members of our coalition as someone very familiar with planning matters as absurd in the degree to which it contradicts a wide range of city guidelines, policies, and rules that are fundamentally intended to ensure the city's livability as growth and development proceeds. These have been described in detail in the various submissions before you. I would say if this project ignores those requirements if a project that ignores those requirements and rules to the degree to which this one does can be approved, it really means these rules mean nothing. And we know we're in the situation where the applicant's already gone to the OLT. So in providing direction to City Legal Counsel, as recommended in the planning report, to intervene in the OLT process to oppose the project, North York Community Council would not just be opposing a project which is completely inappropriate for its location. It would also be acting to uphold and defend those rules more broadly. And that's why we and the other members of the coalition are asking you give direction to city staff around this as recommended in the planning report in as strong terms as you possibly can. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. Any questions for the deputant? No questions? Thank you. Emma Kent, Eglinton Park Residential Association.
Hi.
Ms. Kent?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair and councilors, many thanks for hearing me. My name is Emma Kent. I'm a member of the board of EPRA, Eglinton Park, on whose terrain the proposed development stands. I also live at Roselawn, right across the street and directly facing the north side of the tower, so I know the site and the plans extremely well. EPRA has joined a local coalition to oppose this proposal. As Mark Winfield said, our allies include the Tenants Association at 500 Duplex, the Lytton Park Residents Association, and the Stanley Knowles Housing Co-op. On behalf of EPRA, I will speak today about the general planning issues, leaving the details of design to Mark Winfield as he just spoke, and the impact on the residents of the present tower to our other speaker. I have several points. My first being that on the other side of Duplex towards Young, other planning rules apply. Over there, we're seeing towers rising both along Young and down towards Eglinton. But west of Duplex, across to Eglinton Park, we are zoned for single-family housing, plus modest walk-up apartments, which is what I live in, 4 stories at most, with just the exception of 500 Duplex Tower. An historical anomaly that famously, in 1972, provoked Mayor Crombie to bring in the 45-foot rule to protect stable neighborhoods from such intrusions. So an oversized new building on those lands would destabilize our neighborhood, inviting further monster towers. This not only threatens to overburden our roads with excess traffic, but also negatively impacts pedestrians, including the many children who I see walking to and from school every day. At present, the block is nicely permeable. There are paths through it to all streets, but the new proposal would destroy these paths and create an unbroken wraparound wall, which would have total impermeability, and it offers nothing in return to the people who rely on walking and public transit to get around our city and our neighborhood. And of course, there is the burden of infrastructure, which is something that residents always talk about when there's a new development. But for Yonge and Eglinton, it's a simple and realistic concern that all around the Yonge and Eglinton crossroads, the construction is incredibly intense. Ever since the province in Bill 405 unwrote the Midtown in Focus study, replacing the moderate tower heights with extreme ones, we've been sprouting new tower after new tower, all between 40 and 60 stories. We are projected to gain another 60,000 Midtown residents. Right now, every service from schools, parks, roads, and transit falls short of being able to sustain these additional neighbors, and this trend of rampant development must be slowed down until the needs of current and future residents have been seriously considered and planned for. My last point is one that I feel particularly strong about. At present, the 500 duplex tower is a tower in the park with landscaping, gardens, trees, which offer lots of shade and cool the area. All the residents of the neighborhood, including myself, use the lawn every day, and the current proposed development would eliminate all of this publicly used and easily accessible green space. EPRA agrees that Toronto does need new housing, but we need the right housing and in the right buildings and in the right places. What we have with this proposal is a development that is too wide, too tall, and way too close to the old tower. The new structure would be glued directly onto the lower floors of the current tower, and it's destructive of greenery and will overall have a negative impact on those who live within the tower and those that live around it. It will overburden local infrastructure and cause a construction nightmare for what is already a busy and heavily used intersection. So we will hope that you will help us stop it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you, Ms. Kent. Jacqueline Wint? Ms. Wint?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, councillors. My name is Jacqueline Wint, and I am a current tenant as well as co-vice president of the 500 Duplex Tenants Association and a board member of the Eglinton Park Residents Association. On behalf of the 500 Duplex tenants, I'm here to express our support of City Council's efforts to reject the current building plan and the City Planning Division's recommendation that the City Solicitor send appropriate city staff to attend the OLT hearing. While we understand that housing is needed and does need to be built, the developers' plans, unfortunately, and design lack wisdom, and they're not centered on the type of housing that this particular neighborhood and community needs. And it falls short in addressing the concerns of the current tenants in the following ways. The units to be demolished would displace tenants who currently have affordable housing. The units to be built do not account for they account for a limited range of housing needs, but they fall short and do not fulfill the full spectrum of needs, specifically in the multi-member family unit category. Most concerning is that the developer has not made their intentions known as to whether or not these would be rentals or condominiums. This is a big concern considering the mass financialization of housing taking place in the city that tends to hit and displace the most vulnerable. And the current and local tenants are hit first in these communities, in our community. The developer's proposal is looking for mass profit, and it doesn't feed anything into the community but robs and puts up hindrances. And that is a result of them having not consulted with the tenants and the local community about their proposed development. There's mobility and logistics and displacement concerns. We have residents from the floors from 2 to 10 that would be forced to move. We have residents in townhouses that would be forced to move. These 2 new towers would be built adjacent to units that would lose access to their windows. And windows have a proven positive impact on mental and physical health. Frustratingly, these same tenants might be forced into a position to move, and because of the two towers that would be attached to either side of the building where there are currently units. In 2021, some of these tenants have already received notices about this. The biggest concern we have about the proposed development is that mobility and logistics has not been considered for one of our most vulnerable people groups, the elderly. If this were to go through, access to the new tower and getting access to even this tower would be difficult. The proposed development doesn't address this. It would limit movement. How would pickups and drop-offs happen? Wheel-trans. How would, for the average person, even would deliveries be made? How would walking between buildings to access service areas, how has that been considered? Would tenants have access to the two new towers? Would tenants in the new towers have access to the current tower? If so, for what purposes? All these questions that have not been answered. There would be a loss of amenities. Tenants of this current tower would lose access to things like tennis courts, swimming pool, sauna, all which facilitate health, rehabilitation, and recreation for everyone in this community, in this tower. These things might seem minor and insignificant, but for some, for decades within this tower community, these amenities have facilitated connection and healing, and it would rob tenants of that. Other visitors' parking would be gone, causing an unnecessary hindrance to connection and family and visitations. In our tower, we have a variety store that would be gone, which is used by a range of tenants, most importantly, our seniors. Green space. The two proposed towers would take over green space that has been for decades a vital connection point to this local community. It is still very much utilized and loved by the community. It facilitates and encourages social gathering, organized and random community connections and friendships,
If you could,
which are the important parts.
Jacqueline? Ms. Wint?
Yes.
You're over 5 minutes.
Yes.
Could you just wrap up?
Sure.
Thank you.
In closing, it's hard to speak about something like this in 5 minutes respectfully. There is a range of issues that are just not being considered. I encourage rather the city to send the necessary resources to fight this for all of these reasons. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Questions for the deputant, Councillor Carroll?
Yes, Jacqueline, thanks for coming on behalf of the tenants living in the existing building. Will the tenants be able to mobilize to be a party to the hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And you're aware that I'm going to use my crystal ball here. We're going to adopt the staff recommendation that we send them to oppose. And I know all of council would agree with us on this particular application to oppose. But we will be asked by the adjudicator, it's how the OLT works, we'll be asked to, could you go away and figure out a way to settle this? That's what they'll say. Is this easily settled, or is this a case of needing to just go back to the drawing board?
It needs to go back to the drawing board.
Right, right.
If you want me to be honest with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for the deputant? I do not see any. Thank you very much, Ms. Wint. Questions for staff? Councillor Carroll?
Yeah, just a quick question, then I'll leave it to the local councillor. When I was reading this report, I noticed it was in the resident comments people will lose their windows. And I thought that was sort of the classic, what they really mean was they'd lose their view. But if I read this right, the building becomes one, and there are windows down the side of this building. I drove by it a couple of days ago. So do they just have windowless rooms at the back of their unit? And if so, is that even legal? Are staff even on the floor?
Is planning available?
Here we are.
Sorry. Oh, through the chair. Apologize for that. We'll have our planner, Kathy Ferguson, respond to that question, Councillor.
Okay. Kathy, are you available?
Kathy may be having connection problems. I'll just explain that the two wings are being directly abut the existing sides, the north and south side of the building. So that's why windows are actually being lost. It's not like there's a breezeway connection or something else like that. So up to the 6th floor, you would have a connection at the north and south end, and windows would have to be closed off, and the units would have to be modified in their layout.
So, right, so they'd have to be modified because you can't just cut them off and leave a bunch of windowless units at the back of a unit. You have to actually reconfigure those apartment units.
That is correct.
So we're going to go to oppose the application as written, but is that, well, you can't give away too much legal strategy, but I would assume that we'll be opposing vehemently because there is a lot of work. This is not a short list of things yet to be settled. The issues with this application are basic built form things. You have a lot to settle before you could ever settle, right?
Right.
Okay.
Through the chair, yes, we have major issues with this development application. The scale of the wings in an apartment neighborhoods designation, we would expect small scale, sensitive infill. This is not about covering the majority of the site with infill redevelopment. And the scale, the height is well beyond what we would look at in terms of 1-to-1 ratio of 20-meter wide streets that abut this site.
Okay. Is it possible for us to recommend we recommend that staff attend to oppose, but we recommend that staff attend to vehemently oppose? That's a rhetorical question. Thanks, Mr. Rosowski.
I'm sure our Rottweiler lawyers will take care of everything. Any other questions for staff? Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I'm just question. This applicant didn't bother even to participate in the public meeting that was held, the community consultation meeting. Has this ever happened before? It certainly is the first time I've ever seen that the applicant didn't even bother attending the public meeting.
Through to the chair, yes, we've had other applicants where we've been in this situation, but it certainly is not common. Our protocol is that we have a community consultation meeting. We have the developer there to answer questions directly, as well as their consultants to answer their detailed questions about issues related to the application.
Okay, now as you know, this is going to the Provincial Land Tribunal, and so some of the members of the community have written to the local member of provincial parliament who has said it's the city's fault that the developer went to the tribunal because the city did not respond in time. How do you answer that?
Through to the chair, it's the applicant's right to, under the Planning Act, to appeal if the application is not dealt with. The application did make an attempt to talk to us about modifications to the proposal. those were not acceptable. They are proceeding towards the Ontario Land Tribunal with their original application, which is not satisfactory. I do think on this particular application, we're pretty far apart, as Councillor Carroll has mentioned. I think that this is not likely an application that would be successful through the OLT mediation process.
So how many days do you have to respond to an application?
This particular application does not have an official plan amendment. The application was submitted on July 7th, 2021, and would have been 120 days beyond that date of submission.
Okay, and then in terms of one of the questions was about the number of residents that are anticipated to come into Midtown as a result of all the development taking place. They said 60,000 new residents are coming into Midtown. Could you basically give us a summary of some of the developments that are basically in process or have just been constructed or in close proximity to 500 duplex?
Yes, we have several applications that have been dealt with, and we have a lot of applications that have been appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So we have 36 to 44 Eglinton Avenue West, which was the original proposal was 65-story towers, which would be the highest height that we have within the Ward 8 section of the Yonge Eglinton Secondary Plan. We have a 2-tower development at 50 to 90 Eglinton Avenue West. We also have 2400 Yonge Street, which is a 2-tower development. We have recently built Station K and the White House Towers on the west side of Yonge Street. Lots of development activity within the vicinity, close vicinity of this development application.
Is this a park deficient area?
This is a parkland deficient area. We are trying our best through the implementation of the Yonge Eglinton Secondary Plan to add new parkland. This application is proposing on-site parkland. However, it's deficient on what is required in terms of on-site parkland dedication. We also have had developers that are not doing on-site parkland, and they have picked up properties in the area that would be contributing to local parkland in the area. The basic premise of the secondary plan is it will be a challenge for us to keep up with the growth, the residential growth and the employment growth in this area in terms of the provision of parkland.
Yes, and isn't this supposed to be an area of a complete community where we're supposed to have employment uses plus residential?
It's your last question. You're over 5 minutes.
Yes. This particular application does not have a requirement for priority retail. It doesn't have any office space on site. So this is not a component that we're looking at as part of the development application.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for staff? Speakers? Councillor Cole?
Yes, that last question basically is the context that we are getting basically 99% residential development here with no employment of any kind, very marginal. And so we are basically flooding the area with nothing but residential. There are no parks available. The only park there is way overcrowded and now surrounded by shadows. It is basically one of the most concentrated areas in Toronto, as Councillor Robinson knows. In the Midtown area, we have more development here than most of the Canadian provinces combined. So right here in Midtown. So this is just another, you might say, arrow that's been slung into people here, whereby the history of this tower really, one of the commentators mentioned, created an incredible backlash. It was a 34-story tower that basically helped start the movement by former Mayor David Crombie to reduce tower heights. And this is back in '72. So all of a sudden, that tower, which basically spurred on a revolution, basically, is now the site of these 2 additional towers attached to it. So these are not apart, or as one of the questions mentioned, going to block windows on the existing 34-story tower, with towers on both sides, 11 stories, 15 stories. And so we're losing, and in fact, has been mentioned, this has been the only saving grace for this development at 500 duplex. There's been quite a green open space around it. But now that green space is basically being destroyed with additional residential towers that not only make life miserable for the tenants in the 500 duplex, but are taking away sort of the oxygen in the area even more so. Because, you know, we, as Mr. Wazowski, the senior planner said that we have unprecedented numbers of applications here, from 65 stories to 35, 45. It's just countless number of applications that are taking place in this area. So the pressure that this is going to put on everything, schools, well, there's no space in any of the schools in this whole area. So I don't know if there's ever going to be any children here, but certainly there are no schools for them. We're losing this green space. We are adding to incredible congestion in the area because of the concentration of so many people being shoehorned into the Yonge Eglinton area. So this is why this is an appalling development proposal. In fact, it was so appalling that the applicant didn't even have the courtesy of participating in a public meeting. It's almost like a slap in the face to the City of Toronto, to the planning process, and to the residents of saying, no, I don't have time to listen to people. I'm going to the provincial land tribunal and overriding, and I don't care what the city does, and I don't care what the residents do. This is why people in the area are so upset, rightfully so, for what is transpiring here. And it just basically makes people ask, why is there a city council? Why is there a planning department at the city? When a developer can just go and say, I don't care, I'm bypassing it, I'm going right to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And the city has no choice but to obviously oppose this appalling proposal here at 500 duplex. And we have to send our lawyer. But again, I'm not very hopeful given this secretive tribunal that now has become basically the chief planning agent in the City of Toronto. We've got, I think I've got 5 applications right now before the Ontario Land Tribunal. And this
Councillor
is a
Cole, if you
growing
could,
trend.
Councillor Cole, if you could wrap up, please.
And again, I just totally support a total opposition to this appalling proposal here at, and I hope this triggers a second rebellion in Toronto, as did the first 34-story building that went up in 1972. So other than that, it's a great application.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Other than it being terrible, it's great. Okay, Councillor Carroll.
Yeah, I'm afraid I have to speak just to add a little refinement, because recognizing some of the names and some of the written deputants, there are residents in this community that actually at this point don't represent every single building in the Young Eglinton area. They engaged in a massive process to figure out where in the Young Eglinton area we were going to intensify and where we would not. And very stringent guidelines about how we would do so and how we would create public realm around them. It was called Midtown in Focus. And I think, with due respect to the local councillor, rather than go back to the Crombie era and discuss how the original 34-story building got there, it's important to note the application we're looking at today is only because the current government, Doug Ford's government, immediately upon being elected, wiped out all the work of Midtown in Focus, and moved Bill 108, which makes this application possible in their view. But the reason I asked Mr. Rozowski, and I asked the tenant who lives in that the building currently on site, is this a matter of opposing and then coming up with a namby-pamby settlement? Or do we really need to go back to the drawing board? Is because I think we have to push this time to say, this is what happened because you wiped out Midtown in Focus, current provincial government. This is a ridiculous application, and we have to vehemently oppose it, and there is no easy settlement here. This is a settlement that is going to have to be very, very hard debated, probably mediated, because we're so far apart. And so I hope that the vote we take today, it's clear to the community that we're opposing in the strongest possible terms to support the local councillor here and the community here, and to send a message to the province that we aren't afraid of intensification, but we did a lot of work to figure out where and where not to intensify, and we're just asking them to respect it.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Are there any other? Councillor Robinson, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief because, quite frankly, Councillor Cole did an excellent job articulating the position of Midtown councillors. It's been an ongoing nightmare. I got another application this week for another tower. It never ends, with little thought about really the impacts on infrastructure and the neighborhoods. And I just want to say I 100% support Councillor Cole and the good work he's done on this file, because this thing is beastly and precedent setter of the worst kind. And I also want to do a shout out to the neighbors and the local residents who have emailed me, and many of you, about their concerns. They're very legitimate concerns about this application. So I hope we will secure a unanimous vote today in support of Councillor Cole and the local residents associations and residents, neighbors, to send a strong message that this is unacceptable application. And we don't want these happening in any neighborhood in Toronto, but particularly Midtown, which is literally drowning in a sea of concrete. I have such a major park deficit in my area, and it's just concerning, these types of applications beyond belief. So I really hope we get a resounding no today. And thank you lastly to staff. Bravo to staff for your taking this strong position.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Any other to speak on the item?
Yes,
Councillor Phil.
I've got my hand up. Yes, so I thought, thank you, Councillor Cole, for as always, for your impassioned words. I was hoping the rebellion you were going to refer to was 1837. We may need to bring that one back. And I know we've all been trying, or at least Councillor Cole, Councillor Robinson, and myself, and Councillor Carroll, perhaps perhaps the others as well, in making people aware of the extreme damage that the current government has done and is doing to their neighborhoods. And I'm not sure why it's such a hard message to have sink in, but really, and I'm not saying this to be partisan political. It's I'm not a terribly strong fan of any of the parties, but the residents of Toronto need to speak up, and really, this government should not win a single seat in this upcoming election. And they frankly wouldn't if people understood what they have done, and that this if this isn't already irreversible, it will soon be. Something, extreme corrective measures need to be taken, and I hope that the other parties will come out with very strong platforms on this, which I have yet to see. But really, if to break it down to its essence, it's giving power back to communities and the people they elect. And that's what has been completely taken away. The local communities, elect councillors who look out for their interests, but those councillors, in the end, have very little say in the final decision, and people need to understand that. And if they agree with it, fine, go out and campaign for your local PC candidate. But if you don't, you should be doing the opposite. So, thanks.
Thank you for that nonpartisan partisan speech. Any other comments on this item? All right. Councillor Cole, how would you like to proceed? Do you want a recorded vote?
Yes, recorded vote.
Yeah,
please.
what are you going to do on this item? You're moving staff recommendations?
Can we add the word vehemently opposed to it as an amendment?
Vehemently, vigorously, rabidly. Where's my thesaurus? I gotta get that.
Yes, vehemently is perfect.
Vehemently, okay. Yes, no, fully understood, and very supportive. So, Councillor Cole has moved the staff recommendations to vigorously and vehemently fight this application, and we're asking for a recorded vote.
This is a recorded vote to adopt the item. All in favor? Councillor Carroll, Councillor Pasternak, Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, Councillor Fillion, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Cole. All those opposed, that carries unanimously.
Great, thank you very much. We're going to go back to item 7, which was a timed item for 9:45. It's 6150 and 6160 Yonge Street, and some addresses on Pleasant Avenue and Goulding. I do not have any deputants listed for this item. Are there questions for staff? I did not see questions for staff. Are there speakers? Councillor Fillion, this is your item?
Yes.
So,
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendations, and in contrast to most of the other items we're dealing with, this one involved one of our kind of old school applicants, Sabera, who believes in working with staff, and it probably took them longer than it might have, but they were really terrific and cooperative in working with staff, and I thank them for that, and I think we got a good application as a result.
okay, Councillor Fillion, any other speakers on the item? No. Staff recommendations moved by Councillor Fillion. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We now move over to item number 9. I have a deputant, Andrew Palumbo. Whether we have Andrew on the line? We do? Yes, Andrew?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for
members of
joining
council.
us. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Andrew Palumbo, and I'm an associate with MHBC Planning, and we are the planning consultants for the proposed development at 4155 Yonge Street. Just to give a very quick overview, we were retained in 2019 to help improve the partially appealed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications for the site. And we have worked very closely with the owner and your staff since to modify and reduce the overall built form and design to achieve greater fit and compatibility on the site with the surrounding context. Although very detailed in the staff report provided, these modifications include but are not limited to the following: reduction in overall height from 14 to 11 stories, reduction in the total FSI from 3.2 to 2.21, reduction in the total number of units by more than half from 64 typical suites to 30 luxury suites, which equates to less required parking and traffic generated from the site, which was a community concern, and an increase in the setback from the total slope from 1 to 3 meters, which meets the TRCA requirements as well as ravine and natural feature protection requirements. I just want to let Community Council know that we are supportive of staff's report and recommended settlement, as a substantial effort went into getting to this point, and we definitely want to thank staff for their cooperative and collaborative efforts to this point. And as such, just wanted to let you know that I am available should any questions arise on this matter. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Any questions for the deputant? I do not see any. Any questions for, thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. Any questions for staff on this item? 4155 Yonge Street.
I'd like to move on this, please.
Yes. Councillor Robinson, would you like to move staff recommendations? Okay.
No, I would not. No, I have
Oh.
I have sent a motion to the clerk yesterday asking to move the item to City Council without recommendations, and they have the motion prepared.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Great. Oh, okay. There it is on the screen for everybody. All righty. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? That is carried. Next item, I believe, is item 10, a series of addresses on Avondale, Bales Avenue, Glendora, and I do not have any deputants listed. Are there questions for staff? I do not see any requests for questions for staff. Are there any speakers? Councillor Fillion?
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendations, and I could give a long speech about the extent to which this application completely ignores all the city's planning rules, but there's so many of them on the agenda today, I won't do that. It's just the same speech as Councillor Cole gave, and on this one, I believe the community is aware. I've certainly made them aware of why we can't curb this application and make them comply with the rules, or why we, at least hopefully we will be able to, but we do not have any, we've lost our control over that mechanism. Anyway, I'll thank the staff for a good job on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fillion. Yeah, we are facing monumental change. There's no doubt. So you're moving staff recommendations? Any other speakers?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other speakers on the item? Okay, staff recommendations moved on item 10, series of addresses. on various streets, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 11, I do not have any deputants listed for that item. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12 Oakburn. Official plan zoning bylaw amendment. Questions for staff? I do not see any questions for staff. Speakers?
Yes, just I'll move the staff recommendations again, another, well done by staff. This is another really objectionable, egregious application on a site where there was a previous OMB decision that gave the applicant, a lot of density, allowed them to rebuild over phases, and now that they've gotten to the last phase, they want to throw all of that out the window and do so in a way that is completely unfair to adjacent property owners who would have relied on not only the previous, would have relied on a previous decision by the Ontario Municipal Board when they decided to purchase a home or do a renovation. And now all of that is in jeopardy. So, just more of the same. Thanks to the current provincial government.
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fillion. Just to give you a snapshot of what we're facing in York Centre, I have 3 development applications that total 630 acres of vacant land. It's big. So, any other speakers on the item? Okay, Councillor Fillion, you're moving the staff recommendations?
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We can go, yeah, so Councillor Cole, you've held down number 13, and I do not have any deputants on that item. 2402, 2418 Dufferin Street, this is...
Just had a couple of questions of staff.
Okay,
questions of staff.
All right, fair enough. Okay, questions for staff?
Yes, if I could ask, a lot of the residents are asking, with these 2 towers now, 9-story, 24 stories going on this old Fairbank strip club site, was there a study done for this part of Dufferin north of Eglinton?
Through you to the chair, yes, this is part of one of 6 study areas that was done as part of the Eglinton Crosstown study. It is the Dufferin focus area, resulted in a site and area specific policy that covers the intended growth that would happen in conjunction with the Dufferin or the Fairbank LRT station. Site and area specific policies 476 and 477 apply. The property is also located within the Little Jamaica Cultural Study Area, which is underway.
When was this study done there for the Dufferin focus area?
It was done as part of the Eglinton Crosstown work. 2017 was the timeline, so it's been a couple of years. And we're seeing a lot more growth pressure in conjunction with the major station areas in conjunction with the Eglinton Crosstown.
Okay, so this area undertook a study, involved the community, and there were certain parameters put in for heights and densities. what were the recommendations out of that study for the height allowed on Dufferin here?
In this particular location, it would be 9 stories anticipated. The focus area does allow for towers at each of the 4 corners of Dufferin and Eglinton Avenue West, but that height allowance does not cover this property. It was intended for mid-rise mixed-use redevelopment at up to 9 stories.
Okay, so that's the crucial question the community is asking. They just went through this. It was like the Midtown and Focus study. They went through that, and the conclusion was mid-rise is for this location. Then all of a sudden, this application comes in for 24 stories, and not to mention the others, abutting property for 11 stories. So the question is, how could this happen?
The applicant has filed an official plan amendment in light of the application not conforming to the official plan policies in place.
So why don't we just reject this application outright, since it doesn't come anywhere near conforming with what the Dufferin area study called for, mid-rise?
A straight refusal of this application was one of the alternatives that we did evaluate. It is within the station area, which, as we previously discussed at North York Community Council meeting, is giving some rationale for this developer to proceed with higher heights and densities than what is currently allowed under official plan policy.
So therefore, what prevails? I mean, the city again is saying, they do this study, they say mid-rise. The developer comes in and says, no, I don't believe anything the city has planned or the community has said. We're going to do 24 stories. So how do we even consider
Councillor
this
Cole,
application?
that was your last question.
For you to the chair, what has changed is the provincial planning framework in terms of encouraging greater intensification around transit stations. And that is part of the planning rationale that has been submitted with the development application and the developers thinking for higher heights of 9 stories in a neighborhoods designation and 24 stories within the mixed use designation.
All right, thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for staff on this item? Speakers? Councillor Cole, what are you going to do with this item?
Can I just speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank Mr. Wazowski for his answers. Again, this is another example of what's happening. What's that? This is another example of what's happening in the city. And this is why involved residents keep asking the questions. You know, why did we participate in a study? Why did we come up with a plan just a couple of years ago? And now all of a sudden, we see an application that comes in that totally throws all that out the window. And so people ask, why is the city allowing this? And it's hard to explain to people that there has been a dramatic change as a result of some new provincial policies. But, you know, the public has no time, no patience to basically deal with all these rapid changes to planning which have occurred in the city of Toronto. So when we as councillors try to explain to people, well, yes, this is supposed to be mid-rise, but we have to basically proceed and allow an examination of this application for 24 stories. It really makes us as a city council, I think, in our planning process, lose credibility because the public has no understanding because, as I said, it's complicated. There's been so many changes. I think there was another piece of legislation and planning fast-tracked yesterday at Queen's Park with more massive changes where the city is going to be fined if they don't respond to development application. There's going to be heavy fines imposed on the city's planning department. So anyways, in this application, it's actually, considering what I'm seeing, 65 stories, 45 stories, it's not a bad application. There's some benefits to it. They were getting rid of a notorious strip club that terrorized the area for decades. I mean, we're replacing it with some residential housing. We're near the subway station. So it's not a bad application in many, but it really raises a lot of questions about how planning works and how the city basically can be considered as a legitimate part of this planning process now, given all these new provincial overrides. So reluctantly, I'm going to move staff recommendation to continue to work with the applicant. But again, it's just another illustration of the mess we're in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other speakers on the item? No? Okay, staff recommendations moved by Councillor Cole. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Let's head back to item 6. It was held by Councillor Fillion, 105 Shepherd Avenue East. I do not have, wait a minute, I do have one deputant on the item, Rohan Selvig. So we already listened to him. Okay, Councillor Fillion or anyone, questions for staff?
No, I just have a motion to refer this to send this to council without recommendation.
Okay, let's. Okay. Motion is on the screen. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I can jump to, now, Councillor Cole, you've held a number of preliminary reports. We don't really debate those. Are you willing to release 14, 15, and 16? I mean, all of this is setting up community consultation. If you have a motion to change that in any way.
What is it, 31, which ones?
14, 15, and 16, you've held all of those, but they're just preliminary reports asking staff to commence community consultations. Can I, unless you have, do you want to just take a minute and see whether you really need to ask questions of staff or speak to those items other than moving the report? And
well,
then I'm going to go.
Again, I understand the agenda is heavy for all of us, but I think given, you know, what's happening here to our city, we have to ask some questions about what's going on in terms of all these. I mean, how many do we have? About how many developments on this agenda alone today?
No, it is pretty monumental, and it's transformational.
So
it's hard
for us to be silenced and not to say anything about this would also be a dereliction of duty. So that's why I'm just trying to clarify some things that I think the public has the right to know. That's all I'm trying to do. And I know you're in a tough situation as you're the chair and you've got a big agenda.
Yeah, so this is like a Passover Seder. I'm trying to move this thing along. So, okay, I mean, I'm not going to, deny you your right to ask staff. I'm just saying these, these reports are really to direct staff to commence public consultation. If you had motions to do something else with these items, that's another story.
Well, then I'll just defer it and I'll prepare some motions then.
For next meeting or now?
Yeah, I could do it for next meeting. Sure, that's what I'll do.
Okay, are you moving deferral on
of 14 and 15?
All right, so let's do them one at a time. Let's go to 14. Even though we should technically, okay, so let's go to 14 and questions for staff or just Councillor Cole, you're moving deferral, right?
I'm moving deferral to the next meeting of North York Community Council.
Okay, deferral is being moved on NY 3114, 3300 Dufferin Street. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 15, Councillor Cole also moving a motion of deferral. That is a series of addresses on Marley Avenue.
Yes, I'll move deferral to the next meeting of North York Community Council.
Okay, once again, a motion of deferral. What was that? All those in favor? That is opposed. That is carried. And item 16, are you moving deferral of that one as well?
No, I'll move, reluctantly, I'll move staff recommendation.
Okay, on item number 16, 1141 Roselawn Avenue, staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now, we actually have to, wait a minute. 17, yeah, we're at 17 now, and there's actually a series of speakers. I'm going to hand the chair over for a few minutes to Councillor Carroll. Do you have your speakers list there? We're looking through Matthew Helfand.
Hi there. Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yes, I believe you're the applicant.
I'm not the applicant. I'm here on behalf of two neighbors in the vicinity of the proposal. I'm not sure if the applicant is here.
I don't think there are.
I don't see the applicant on the list of speakers. So Mr. Helfand, we're going to let you proceed. Can I just quickly, we were shifting through items there. So just for those watching, we didn't read out what item we're on. This is 2439 to 2441 Bayview Avenue. Mr. Helfand, if you want to proceed, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Chair. My name is Matthew Helfand, and I'm a lawyer at Airden Burles LLP. And I'm here as a lawyer for Miss Lucy Kalislian, who's the owner of For the Bridle Path. And I'm also here as agent for Dr. Harry Fung and Miss Gail Lee, who are the owners of 8 The Bridle Path. Both properties are located to the south of this development site, but on the same city block. This is a proposal for a zoning bylaw amendment to permit a 3-story school in a residential neighborhood in a property that's designated under the OP as neighborhoods. And I'm here to express concerns on behalf of these neighbors with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. I have reviewed the supporting materials that were filed by the applicant and the staff report, and there are some specific and serious concerns that we believe the council, staff, and the applicant must consider as this application proceeds. The first and foremost is related to noise impacts. As I mentioned, the site is designated neighborhoods, and you'll see from the map that it abuts residential dwellings to the north, to the east, and also in the vicinity to the south beyond the Chabad institution on Bayview. It is in the heart of a residential neighborhood, although it fronts on Bayview. Neighborhoods in the OP are considered physically stable neighborhoods, and while institutional uses like a school may be permitted, the OP directly specifies that compatibility is key, and that does extend beyond simply issues of physical character. The official plan speaks directly to schools in neighborhoods and provides that schools will provide open space and landscaping that will be designed and operated to limit noise, privacy, and traffic impacts on neighboring residences. My client and Dr. Fung and Ms. Lee are very concerned that this direction from the OP is not met. The noise report that was produced by the applicant recommends no noise mitigation measures, but it also relates solely to compatibility as it relates to the school as a receptor of noise, but has no mention whatsoever about noise that is caused from the school to the residential neighborhoods. This is critically important because this is what the official plan directs. And you'll see in the proposal that there are 2nd and 3rd story play areas. So if you look at the applicant's planning justification report, this issue has not been given any significant consideration. It simply states in that report that these play areas, which are at the 2nd and 3rd story, have been strategically located to face the institutional building as opposed to adjacent residential buildings. But I see no strategic location here and no analysis. I also note that staff have flagged this as an ongoing concern with respect to noise, and so this should be given consideration. My client and the neighbors will be monitoring this. In addition to the other issues that are raised by staff in the preliminary report, my client and the neighbors also have a concern as it relates to parking. To the extent that there will be any overflow parking from this proposal, the logical place to park is directly on my client's street. And this has been an ongoing issue, and we submit requires further study for this application to proceed. There are members on the speakers list here that are the houses closest to the site, but this and who are represented here at the meeting, but there are many residents in the area who are actively monitoring, watching here on YouTube, and are concerned with this application as it goes ahead. So my client and her neighbor look forward to further engagement from the applicant here and hope that these concerns can be taken into consideration by staff and the applicant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the deputant? 1 second, Mr. Helfand, you're still on the line. There is a question for you from Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. Oh, you're still on mute. Councillor Minnan-Wong, you're still on mute. I think Councillor Minnan-Wong, you're still on mute. You may be having tech difficulty. We can see you but not hear you.
To Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, it looks like you are properly muting and unmuting yourself, but we still cannot hear you even when you're unmuted. Can I suggest that you leave and rejoin the meeting, please? Thank you.
Are there,
Madam Chair, I'm happy to stay on the line to field Councillor Minnan-Wong's question.
Okay, if Mr. Helfand could do that, I'm just checking with clerks. Is it possible we could go on to the next speaker and then return to Mr. Helfand? Okay, thank you. Is Adrian Tomei on the line?
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am here. Good morning.
Okay, we're going to have you proceed with your deputation, then we'll go back to the solicitor. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. My name is Adrian Tomei, Property Manager and Representative for 6 The Bridle Path. And the following are a few of the reasons I'm strongly opposed to the zoning bylaw amendment application. To provide context for my argument, the subject property on Bayview abuts 6 The Bridle Path, not only on the rear west, but also on the rear north side. This not only affects 6 The Bridle Path from one angle, but two. I will try to make this quick, concise, and clear. I understand the concept of NIMBYism. However, this is beyond that. Having a sustainable growth strategy within the City of Toronto is vital to our progression as a municipality, but part of sustainable development encompasses meeting the needs of the current constituents. First and foremost, it would be naive to suggest that erecting a 16-meter structure would not have any shadow effect encroaching on 6 The Bridle Path. At what point does the quiet enjoyment of the property come into discussion? At the very minimum, a shadow test should be mandated by the city during pre-consultation, and any new net shadow affecting 6 The Bridle Path or any of the concerned residents should be instantly give reason to oppose the amendment. Secondly, with respect to noise guidelines and the quiet enjoyment of the property is concerned, at the very minimum, a noise feasibility test should be conducted during pre-consultation for the amendment application, and the test should coincide with the Toronto Municipal Code Chapter 591. I find it very hard to believe that a 3-story private elementary and Montessori school will not have a direct noise impact on the quiet enjoyment of the concerned residents, especially before and after school and recess time. Thirdly, surrounding the ever difficult issue of traffic, there's no denying that traveling north or south on Bayview anytime between 3 and 6 p.m. on a weekday is difficult as it is. With that being said, moving forward with this development would only add to that congestion. Turning in and out of residential neighborhoods, plus the added pressures of school safety pickups and drop-offs, would create a literal traffic nightmare for everyone affected. At the very minimum, a traffic impact study should be conducted, and the findings should coincide with any existing or newly planned transit or infrastructure objectives from the municipal level. One may ask why we feel so strongly about this, and what do we have as right as citizens to oppose the development. It is no surprise that the 2 streets affected by this proposal are the Bridle Path and Country Lane. So according to the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, since January 2018, a total of 12 homes were sold on those 2 streets with an average sale price of $12.4 million, amassing to a municipal land transfer tax collection of $3.7 million. We know that municipal land transfer tax is the 5th largest contributor to the City of Toronto's revenue, and having this proposed development come to fruition will have a negative value effect on the aforementioned streets, thus reducing the sale value of these homes, thus reducing the eligible municipal land transfer tax collection. According to the Statistics Canada census dissemination areas, the neighborhood itself is made up of an aging demographic. The median age of the population is 49.4. With respect to children within the household, nearly 85% of the children living in the households are aged 15 plus, and nearly 15% of the entire census itself is unmarried, with 30% of the census single. With an aging demographic and nearly half of the children in the neighborhood over the age of 15, where is the need for a 3-story private elementary and Montessori school? Should the city not be concerned with the lack of housing supply? Should the city not be focused on the bylaw amendment applications that aim towards a shortage of housing? From a strictly planning perspective, the potential that any residential zoning being considered for change is concerning. The land would be better suited for residential development, and the city should be applying pressure on any developer to address this. Private land discussed in public hearings should carry the weight of public influence. This is beyond NIMBYism. This is common sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adrian. There are some questions. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, Mr. Tomei, are you're aware that this is a preliminary report on an application that has come to council?
Absolutely aware. I'm just very passionate about the situation, and I'm strongly objected to it, and I believe that the neighbors are, and we're just, I'm sorry if my passion is coming through the microphone. I'm just, I'm one of many who are very passionate against this.
No quarrel with your passion, but I'm very concerned, particularly on a day like today when you've heard councillors speak passionately again and again about being inundated with development applications. Several of them we are going to the provincial tribunal to oppose. And some of them have significant numbers of units and would represent significant amounts of land transfer tax. But it is our duty to do planning for good planning's sake. And we do not make the decision based on what the land transfer tax might be. Are you insinuating that we make the decision on that basis?
No, I'm not insinuating that. That was just one of many points that I have with respect to City of Toronto municipal revenue.
We do not
I
make.
myself, I'm an urban planning. I'm not insinuating that you make the decision based on that.
Oh,
There were
thank
about 5
you.
or 6 other points that I had brought up. Yeah.
That is great. That is
There are
the
5 or
only
6
point
other
of
points that I brought up,
clarification I needed. I needed to clarify that you were not accusing councillors of that. Thank you so much. That's my only
I would
question.
never do that. I would never
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you, Adrian. Rupa Kohli?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Deputy Mayor Minnan Wong was having connection problems, but he has questions of the first deputy.
Of the first deputy?
Connected yet, though.
I did see his camera on, but he turned it off.
Deputy Mayor, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Okay.
There we go.
Did you have questions for this deputant?
For Mr. Helfand.
Yeah, I did.
Is Helfand's long?
Mr. Helfand's going to come.
No, I'm still on the line, sir.
There you go. Because Mr. Helfand, he had a question of Mr. Helfand, but we couldn't hear him.
Oh, okay. So, Deputy Mayor, Mr. Helfand, can you come back on?
He's here.
Yeah, okay. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's a preliminary report, but I actually find the approach made by the solicitor and at least one of the deputies rather remarkable. So I need to understand this better. So through you, Mr. Chair, to the deputy, my understanding of your argument, or at least one of your arguments, is you're concerned about the noise from a school that might be made to the residents on the bridle path. I interpret that as you're objecting to the noise that children might make in a residential neighborhood. Have I got that right?
Sir, I mean, there's a number of uses at a school that might make noise, but of course, children would contribute to that. And as I mentioned in my deputation, I'm not making this up as an issue of planning. It is right in the official plan that directs that noise issues from schools in neighborhoods are to be a concern. So, sir, this isn't coming from left field.
No, sorry, Madam Chair, as I say, I just need, and this will be my last question, because I mean, this is quite remarkable. Like,
Yeah,
we have hundreds of schools in residential neighborhoods where kids go outside and play at recess and they make noise. It's part of living in a residential neighborhood. And your clients are making the argument that this is unacceptable to them. I mean, I find that quite a remarkable approach. Is that right? Have I got that right?
Sir, I'm not sure if that's a question that I'm able to answer.
No, have I got that right? The narrative that your residents don't want to listen to kids playing at this school.
I wouldn't put it that way, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's what it sounds like, but thank you very much.
Thank you for that, but it's Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair is back. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair has returned. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Any other questions for, I guess, Adrian? Or no? Okay. Thank you very much. Rupa Kohli? Yes?
Hi, are you able to hear
Hi.
me?
Yes. Hi, Rupa. Yes. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. My name is Rupa Kohli. I'm a resident of 3 The Bridle Path. I am speaking today to express my opposition to the zoning bylaw amendment application. I will be as brief and concise as possible. The aforementioned application, we believe, poses multiple issues that will impact the residents of the Bridle Path in a negative manner. Some of those issues being that a substantial increase in traffic to an already congested street. There are safety concerns from vehicles turning into the proposed site during peak hours, such as an increase in possible accidents and an additional increase in standstills on Bayview Avenue. Further, we believe that a lack of sufficient parking with the school and the congested nature of the proposed site's entrance will increase traffic on the Bridle Path, where commuters will sit idle and wait for children during pickup time. This spillover traffic and parking to the Bridle Path can result in, life-threatening and safety violations, such as limiting the access for emergency vehicles which rely on the center land for thoroughfare. To give my view, and I think it's a view of many of the residents before I close off. The Bridle Path area is one of Canada's most prestigious neighborhoods. It is a community of great historical significance to the region. We believe that this proposed site will negatively impact the landscape of our residential community and will stain our neighborhood's reputation. Consequently, we are deeply alarmed about the impact that the proposed site will have to the values of these homes. I thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the council, and I hope we can come to a fair resolution to this as we oppose this zoning bylaw. Thank you.
All right. I'm not sure what to say to that. Did anyone have any questions for the deputant on their comments? Okay, thank you, Ms. Kohli. Betty Ho?
Hi,
Ms.
good
Ho?
morning.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
okay. I'll be very brief. My only concern is the traffic. Both Country Lane and Bridle Path are dead end. So overflowing parking on our on both streets will result in a lot of U-turns. We already have people making U-turns right at the junction of Country Lane and Bayview. Last year, I think there was 3 accidents right at the intersection there. So my concern is the overflow parking and the safety of the kids who are going to that school. If their parents park on either Country Lane or Bridle Path and have to walk over to the school. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for the deputant? I do not see any. Thank you very much. Questions for staff? No questions for staff. Speakers?
Speak, Mr.
Councillor
Chair.
Robinson,
Yeah,
Deputy
I'd
Mayor?
also like to speak.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I know this is only a preliminary report, but I just think that I haven't heard anything very convincing. In a residential neighborhood, you don't want kids in a neighborhood. In a residential neighborhood, you don't like the noise from children in a residential neighborhood. I found it particularly interesting that one deputant said that this school would stain the reputation of the Bridle Path. Like, they've got to figure out, I mean, if that's all you got, that's not going to be, at least from my point of view, a terribly convincing argument to oppose this application, Mr. Chair. So I was disappointed by the narrative and the quality and the content of the deputations for their objections. And I'm interested in learning more about if there are any really substantive things that we actually need to listen to. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other speakers on the item? Councillor Robinson?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to give a little bit of context to this discussion. It is preliminary, but the reason you're hearing from residents is there's been a lot of development in this area. Bayview Avenue has changed significantly over the last few years, and it's been very difficult for the residents. And some of the institutions that are along this stretch of Bayview involve lots of drop-offs and pickups, lots of people parking. And what we found, and I will tell you that the parking staff at City Hall will actually back me up on these comments, is on Bridle Path, which is a street. It's a street that basically is this northern boundary of the Bridle Path area, and it runs off of Bayview. People are parking there constantly illegally, both sides of the road and right to Bayview Avenue. Right to Bayview Avenue. So it is true that it's very difficult for residents, and they're blocking people's driveways. So there is some issues related to safety, people getting in and out of their driveways, and people being able to turn off and on to Bayview Avenue safely. As we all know, you cannot park in that section between a street and a major arterial road, or else there's no visibility. So we've had a lot of problems there that we've been working on and have not been easily resolved. Even though I negotiated with the Canadian Film Centre to use their parking, that hasn't been used. So there's a lot of concern in this neighborhood about all of the development that's happening and the potential rezoning of this site. When this school came to me many years ago, I indicated to them this was not a great site, Bayview Avenue, because Bayview Avenue is a very dangerous street, and getting in and out is going to be very difficult for people who want to drop off and pick up. And it's not easily accessible. It's not like there's a lot of transit in the area, etc. So I see this as a bit of a safety issue, particularly for vulnerable road users. There's a lot of seniors in the area, and I think this is going to be very difficult to navigate the facilitation of the pickups and drop-offs. Also, we're losing again on Bayview Avenue 40 trees if this is approved. The removal of 40 mature trees, and like I said, Bayview Avenue has literally been butchered of trees, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees. So these are important issues to the residents. These are big changes happening in their neighborhood, and we need to focus on this as a neighborhood and how to facilitate this. So I'm moving that we proceed with the community consultation meeting where the local residents will have a voice in the process and on this application. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Any other speakers? I would just, if there's no one else, I would just make the comment that I hear all over my ward the advocacy and actually bordering on begging of building new school capacity, whether it be K-5s or K-8s or even high schools. And I realize this is sort of a private school, but the irony will be that many of the residents in the adjoining neighborhoods will send their kids to this school, or their grandchildren will go to this school. It's important to remember that having a school next to your property is one of the best opportunities you can get. The school year is usually only about 180 days a year. That means the school is closed for about half of the school year, and it's a quiet place. There'll be green space and a playground that you might be able to get a public access agreement on. And it's soft use. I mean, how would you like it if some kind of other noxious use moved in there and got a rezoning? This is what we want. We want school capacity near neighborhoods. That is part of good planning. So I'm taken aback a little bit by some of the comments made, but I hope through this consultation process, members of the community will see the benefits of having an institution like this in their neighborhood, close by to where they live, easily accessible, taking pressure off public schools, and offering what I would hope is a good, strong, safe learning environment. So I'll leave it at that, but that's what the community consultation is all about, to share some of the positives of having a school of this nature in the neighborhood. Thank you. Councillor Robinson? Staff recommendations moved?
Yes, I'm moving staff recommendations, and I have to say, related to your comments, the problem is people are these developments coming in are breaking all the rules, and that's the problem. So that it makes neighborhoods unlivable when people can't walk around safely, or there's cars everywhere. So that's the point I think the residents are trying to make today. So that's the institutions that have arrived there are not working with the residents and neighborhoods and interfacing well.
All right, got it. Okay, the staff recommendations are moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a point of privilege. I've got 2% on my iPad, so I might not be able to keep up. I tried to switch to my laptop, but I was having technical difficulties. So if I fade out, it's not a lack of enthusiasm of wanting to attend, it's a tech problem.
Okay. Do you have a cord? Do you have electricity? I know you're very cold there.
Yeah, it's plugged in.
Do you have some electricity there that you might be able to leverage?
Trying my best here. Trying my best. Hold on.
Okay. I think we're at 6200 Yonge Street. And we have a speaker. Is that the one that withdrew? Okay. So, let me just see here. 6200 Young Street. Are there questions for staff? No questions for staff. Speakers? Councillor Fillion?
Yes, sorry, just because there's two beside each other, I just want to make sure I have the right one here. Yes, okay. I'll move the staff recommendations and would strongly suggest to the applicant that they look up what mid-rise means and adjust their application accordingly.
Okay. All right. For the applicant, some homework there on the definition of a mid-rise. Councillor Fillion has moved the staff recommendations. Are there any other speakers on this item? No? Okay. Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 25 held by Councillor Fillion, 6212, 6600 Yonge Street. I do not have deputants on this item. Questions for staff? And you have a motion on this, Councillor Fillion?
Yes, I have a motion. This is a really important site. I think it's about 30 acres. It's the Centerpoint Mall site, and will be located. This will be a very large new community right at a subway station. The applicant has been very kind of cooperative in trying to design a complete community, and this is just to have staff, as part of the review of the official plan application, develop a plan for community services and facilities, and how that is going to be funded, so that we are sure that this is a really well planned out community that will work for all the future residents.
Okay, thank you very much for that. 6212 to 6600 Yonge Street. Councillor Fillion, you have a motion. So let's see what you have in mind there. It's on the screen, everybody. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. The item is amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, item 3137, application for fence exemption, 27 Beechwood Avenue. Are there questions for staff? I do not see any questions for staff. Are there any speakers on the item? Councillor Robinson?
Yeah, I would like to speak on that item. Sorry. Can you just give me 1 minute? There's no speakers on this. I'm surprised. Okay, that's fine. Sorry about this. I just need 1 minute. So I'd like to move staff recommendations and approve this, please.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. Okay, so you're picking one option, a refusal or granting?
Granting.
Oh, number 2?
Yes.
Okay, so Councillor Robinson has moved option 2. It's granting the application for exemption.
I'll need a recorded vote, please.
All right, okay, that's fine. Are there any other speakers on the item? No? Okay. Councillor Robinson has moved granting the application. There's been a request for a recorded vote. All those in favor?
All those in favor, Councillor Cole, Councillor Fillion, Councillor Robinson.
Councillor
can I have a
Robinson?
vote, please. Councillor Robinson in favor, Councillor Pasternak. All those opposed, Councillor Carroll. That carries.
Okay, that carries. Next item is item 38, application for fence exemption 220 Broadway Avenue. Questions for staff?
This is the one with the speaker. Oh, we have a speaker.
You, oh, right, sorry. Nima K? Yes, Anima?
Yes,
You're on the line.
morning.
Okay, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
thank you. Good
Thank you
morning.
for your
I'm,
patience.
Oh no, it's actually been fascinating to watch the issues. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully successfully, just so that you have a. Let me know if you have some visual. You do. Are you able to see the photo of our backyard?
Yes, the
Yes.
members can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. The crux of our request is to be permitted to keep the existing fence, privacy structure, whatever you want to call it, in our backyard in order to allow us some privacy. So I'm going to spend my 5 minutes speaking about 3 points: the layout of our home and our privacy concerns, some information about the fence, and some factors that I think would help you in making your decision. So the photo that I'm showing right now is a photo taken from our porch, which is located right outside of our kitchen. We have a direct line of sight into our neighbor's backyard. So when we moved into this home, only the tree in the center, the black locust, was in place. None of the surrounding privacy trees were in place. And so whenever we spent time in our kitchen, in our family room, on the deck, we had direct view into our neighbors' bedrooms and backyard, and they had a direct view into a family room, kitchen, and our backyard, where we spend a lot of time. We're very privacy conscious. We have 2 small children who spend most of their time in the family room and in the backyard, and so the concern is that we needed to do something to get some privacy. So some information about the privacy fence. We hired professional landscapers to plant 15 privacy walls, privacy trees, perennial English oak trees, around the perimeter of the fence, in order to provide us with some greenery and to provide some privacy. However, as you can see, there's that black locust tree in the middle of our backyard, which is beautiful and provides lots of lush greenery in the summer months. But the greenery is quite high, and so it doesn't actually offer us any privacy. Because of the size of the tree, its roots go quite wide, and so we weren't able to plant the privacy trees on either side of it close enough to actually provide the privacy that we needed. And we didn't want to remove the tree, but we're able to remove it because it's under the 12-inch limit of not being able to cut the tree. So we are able to remove it, but we didn't want to because it offers us and our neighbors some shade and greenery. And so the landscapers came up with this idea of putting this structure that you see currently behind the tree up, so that it would allow us to keep the tree and have some privacy. What you can see in this picture is that last summer we planted vines going through the privacy structure, so there's quite a bit of greenery that will appear again in the summer months to make the structure blend into the background. So some factors for your consideration. The structure is entirely on our own property. It doesn't interfere with anyone's right of way. It doesn't obstruct anyone's views other than our direct view into our neighbor's home and vice versa. It doesn't interfere with pedestrians or drivers' views. It doesn't interfere with any power lines. It's next to, but not actually attached to the fence. And so it's not going to affect the structure of the fence in any way. It was built by professional landscapers. It has concrete footings, so it's structurally sound, and we intend to keep it that way. It's aesthetically pleasing. Again, not seen in this photo because it's a dated photo. We have put vines going all the way up the structure, and so it's going to blend into the background and add to the greenery.
Okay, if you could, I'm sorry,
and,
if you, sorry, if you could wrap up, your time is almost done.
Yes, I will. And yeah, of course. And the last point is we actually have spoken to, when we got the notice in 2020, we've spoken to all of the adjacent neighbors, and we have their consent, all but one who subsequently moved and is no longer there. And we included those consents on a petition to you for your consideration. So just to close, we have small children, want to maintain the privacy, don't want to move the locust tree, which is what we would have to do if we have to take down the fence. And so I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Little children. Okay, thank you very much for this. Any questions for the deputant?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, there you are. Okay, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for not cutting down the tree. But why is this before us? Is somebody complaining or?
We understand that somebody has complained. From what we understand, it was the neighbors on the other side of the wall who subsequently moved, because we spoke to all the other neighbors and they were fine with it. So from what I understand, the complainants are no longer actually residing in the house.
So the neighbors that are there now, they like the privacy fence.
So the neighbors who are there now had moved one house over at the time, and they had given us their okay. So I don't know if they're new neighbors, I'm not sure, but as of the last time we checked, which was last summer, everyone seemed to be fine with it, and I don't believe anyone has appeared today or responded to the notice that we've put up on our window on it.
So nobody has told you they don't like the fence?
Nobody has sensed the neighbors who have moved. Nobody has told us that they don't like the fence, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for the deputant? Okay, questions for staff. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, just a quick question. So this structure is built up against the fence. Does that make it a fence? Is that why it's before us requesting a fence exemption?
So that is.
No, I'm sorry. I'm asking questions of staff. The deputation is over.
Yeah. Thank you for your deputation. Yeah, we're discussing your matter, but you're no longer participating. You can listen in. Our staff.
Here,
the
I'm
staff
here. Sorry,
that-
I was muted.
Oh, there she is.
I was muted. I'm here. Am I on? Yeah. Good morning, everybody,
Good
or
morning.
good afternoon. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Councillor Carroll, that is correct. That the fence is, I'm not really sure from the photo if it's attached to the other fence panels, but nonetheless, as the definition in the fence bylaw speaks to a barrier, which also would qualify as a fence. So therefore,
Right.
that's the reason why it has to meet the height restrictions.
Right. Walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. So the only other question then is, just correct me if I'm wrong. So this structure, which falls under the fence bylaw, it's more than twice the height of the bylaw. Am I right? Is
Through you,
it
Mr. Chair. Yes, that is correct, Councillor Carroll.
more than twice? Thank you. Those are my questions.
2 meters is the allowed.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? I just have one. If someone was to construct, we see what this is. It's some kind of bamboo thing they kind of pushed up against the fence. If someone was to build a play structure, and use some kind of canvas wrapping or some kind of other elements of it, of construction elements that created a barrier between themselves and the neighbor, would that be considered a fence? You're
And the
muted.
reason being is, no, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. That would be a difficult question to answer, and the reason being is, as you stated, if it was a play structure, so a play structure might be something different, and it could have setback requirements for zoning. So I don't know without seeing the structure and what portions of it are attached that could form a barrier, that could be part of a fence. It's just too difficult to answer without really viewing what the structure would look like. And what is the structure? Is it a play structure? Is it a fence?
Right. So we get into debates of what's a fence, could we? You know, a pergola, latticing, vines, growing vines. Have we delved into trouble of defining what a fence is? This doesn't even look like a fence. It looks like some kind of bamboo matting that's been thrown up against a fence.
Sometimes it can be difficult to define it, but I think in this particular instance, the term barrier, which is in the definition, is what we would call this a barrier. And then the fact that it's either attached and or leaning onto that or right in front of the actual fence itself would form part of the fencing and therefore would be required to comply with the height requirements in this instance.
Okay, all right, I'll leave it at that. Any other questions for staff? Okay, let's go to speakers. Councillor Carroll would like to speak, and I assume Councillor Robinson as well.
So staff have given us an options report, but I'm not sure what the local councillors' intentions are. It would be my intention to refuse the application. This address is in Midtown. This is 220 Broadway Avenue. And if you don't know you live in a city by the time you get to Broadway Avenue, then I don't know how much further south you have to go to really understand you live in an urban setting. And in an urban setting, we have to have fence bylaws. We have to have some guidelines to go by. And 2 meters, roughly 6 feet, is what we have arrived at. And it has stood us in good stead. If you look at the photographs in our report, you may think that the fence around this is a short fence, the fence around this home, because it's dwarfed by the structure, the privacy screen. But that is a 6-foot fence. And most small children are not 6 feet. So while your children are playing, they're behind a 6-foot fence if you follow our bylaw, which stops them from climbing out. And it helps you until the very short amount of time passes before your kids are not small anymore. You know, if I designed my backyard around my small grandchildren, it would have been kind of a wasted investment because it took a very short amount of time for them to go from being 3 feet tall to 6 foot 3.5. That's what happens. Kids grow. And so we set our bylaw for the general population and the safety of your kids. We've agreed a long time ago is fine if you fence your yard with a 6-foot high fence. The structure is just so far outside, coloring so far outside the lines. I think we have to look at what are the extreme examples and say, this one's extreme, we simply have to refuse to grant. And this is one of those instances because we're at 12.2 feet. We've been in gray areas where the finials take it up to 7 feet or the lattice takes it up to 6 feet and 8 inches. We've been in gray areas before. There's no gray area at 12.2 feet. And so I hope the motion is to refuse to grant. If not, I would like to place those recommendations on the table so that they too can be voted on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Robinson?
I'm not sure. I mean, my plan was to address this, I guess, by thinking about the neighbors, and we haven't had a single complaint from a single neighbor. I do think, as Councillor Cole pointed out, there must have been a complaint, but it was from a previous resident in the area who is now moved. We can verify that. We were also told that. So it's difficult not to approve, quite frankly, because nobody seems to have an issue with the fence. Having said that, if this is going to lose, then I would rather look at modifications than have it lose. But my intention was to grant the application based on recommendation 2, simply because they're looking for some privacy. There's a window issue between the two neighbors where they're looking into each other's windows, and without going into great detail, this family requires privacy. So I would like to grant the application, but if it's refused, if refusal wins, because it sounds like Councillor Carroll's moving that, then I would like the option to look at maybe a discussion around modifications. So that's not very helpful, Mr. Chair, sorry.
Yeah, so unless you had some kind of a motion to grant that, that we could vote on, I don't know what discussions we could have at this point. Do you want to defer the item and give it some thought? And then you can really kind of address it with a motion at the next community council, or do you want to just put it to a vote with your moving granting the application?
Madam Chair, if the problem was that I was less than clear, that would be my intention. Is I've discussed with the clerk, because I wasn't that clear. I am going to move the recommendation to refuse to grant. So if the councillor is putting deferral on the table, I guess we have both of those things to vote on.
Point of order, I'm going to move granting the fence exemption.
Yeah.
Just to help
No,
clarify
okay,
what
no,
Councillor Robinson's
that's
trying to do.
Yeah, so yes, I was going to support granting the exemption. So, Councillor Robinson.
Well, then I might as well move ahead then.
Okay. All right, so you're moving number 2, granting the application?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, we've a request for a recorded vote. Councillor Robinson has moved granting this application. All those in favor on a recorded vote?
My motion is still on the table and comes first. I just want a recorded vote on mine, and then you can move on to Councillor Robinson.
So your motion is to refuse, option 1?
Yes.
Okay,
Does
this
the order-
is a recorded vote.
Does the order
on
matter?
The motion to refuse. All in favor.
Just like a quick
What?
vote on it.
Sorry, can we get clarification? I thought we were voting on my motion.
Sorry, our microphones are not on. It's in the order in which they were moved. So we'll vote on mine
Oh, I
first,
see, okay.
which will likely lose
Okay,
based on
sorry.
those hands, but that's the order procedurally.
Okay,
Okay, thank you
so
for clarifying.
so right now, for clarity's sake, we are voting on, Councillor Carroll is moving option number 1, which is the refusal recommendation. So it's a recorded vote. All those in favor of refusal?
All those in favor, Councillor Carroll. All of those opposed. All of those opposed to refusal, please. Councillor Pasternak, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Cole, Councillor Fillion. That does not carry. And I don't need to record the other.
So Councillor Robinson, you're moving number 2, granting the application? Okay, all those in favor? Did you want it recorded, or we're good? Doesn't matter?
No, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. item number 39, I believe we have a deputant. So this is application for a fence exemption at 34 Rolls Court Drive. Abraham Bubujian? Yes? All right, great. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Abraham?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Hi. Thank you for this opportunity. Sorry. A couple of years ago, I took the time to have a pergola built in the northwest corner of my property, and the pergola was approved and it was built housing 2 large trees. It's at a severely sloped portion of the property. So this information you've been given that it's 3.5 meters above is slightly incorrect, because the fencing was built above the pergola is less than 2 meters. And there's fencing below the pergola to keep animals out of the area below the pergola. So that's why it's the aggregation it could be 3.5, but it really, for all intents and purposes, it's not. On the north side of the property, the fencing is only about 2 to 3 or up to 5 inches above the limit, again, because it's sloping, and the builders did as best as they could. However, I should point out that that area was overrun by swamp cedars. We dug it up. We left it, and the fencing was built in a trough. I offered to raise the ground to make sure that it meets the fencing requirements. I was told it's not an issue, don't worry about it, so I left it. But that's still on the table. I can bring in soil and raise the ground a bit. So the area that we're talking about is in a 20 foot by 20 foot, and when you consider the property is about 150 by about 80, it's a small fraction of the property in the back corner of my backyard. And as I mentioned, the pergola has already been approved. There's nothing outstanding. The permits have been closed. And that's all I have to say. If any questions, I'll stay on.
Thank you. That concludes your remarks. Hello, Abraham?
Yes, sorry. Just having a sip of coffee.
Yeah, were you done? You kind of went blank on us.
No, I did. I'm done. I mean, it's.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you very much.
I don't want to be upset.
No, thank you very much for your comments. Are there any questions for the deputant? No questions for the deputant? No?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Robinson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there any concerns from your neighbors about this?
Not as far as I'm concerned. I have 2 neighbors in the back I've spoken to them, they haven't said anything. The neighbor to the north side, that started all this fiasco, let's call it, has since passed away. So and the house has been sold and rented, and I have no idea. I haven't spoken to them. And the other point out is where this fencing was built in the back along the pergola is well inside my property line. In some cases, about 4 or 5 feet inside my property line. It's not right on the property line.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at attachment 4. So attachment 4 does show that, but you're saying it's 4 or 5 feet within the property line?
Because at the back, I have 5 corners on my property. The back has 3 corners. So at the middle corner is about 5 feet, and the northwest corner, it's about foot and a half.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I'm not 100% clear, but I know you addressed this. The pergola is not in question here at all.
No.
Is that true? The pergola.
It's been closed.
It's the fence that we need to look at.
Exactly.
And the fence is how much, and I know the fence is on top of the platform, right? Like it's not coming off the ground. So there's
a portion below ground and a portion above ground.
Right.
Below the deck, yeah.
So the issue is that you're saying there's slope issues,
yes.
But you're also saying it's built off the frame of the floor of the pergola. So, yeah, I guess what is then in question? The fence, and how much higher is it than it should be? Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, you're
I
asking
hear
me?
you.
Sorry,
I'm
you're
asking
me?
you.
Okay, uh, the fence as it stands right now, I don't know. I mean, this is my first time going down this road. I don't know what the issue is.
Okay, you know what? I'll ask staff. I'll ask city
Okay.
staff, okay? But the question that we're not looking at the pergola.
No.
We're looking at the fence that frames the base of the pergola.
Exactly.
It's confusing, I have to say. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Robinson. Any other questions for the deputant? No? Okay, we're going to go to staff. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, it is confusing, and I'm not going to make fusses about recording votes, but I just want to nail down some concepts here. When we're looking in the report where we see construction and deficiency, in that column in your report, it says current fence has the pergola attached to it, which makes the pergola a part of the fence, which then means it has to be calculated as the height of the fence. Is that the issue when it's in the deficiency column? I think that
Through you, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, Councillor, that is correct. The fact that it is attached to the fence, similar to the item that we had previously, it becomes part of the fence structure and therefore must comply with the height requirements. And you're right, I believe the report indicates that it's 3.5 meters in height.
Right.
And
So
the allowed is 2 meters.
Right. So the resident would like us to ignore the pergola, but in fact, the pergola is the issue. So my question is this: the resident mentioned a number of times that the pergola was approved. Did we look back at the records? Did he go to the desk and he got an approval to build it this way, and now we're telling him it's illegal?
I would have to, through you, Mr. Chair, I would have to just quickly look at the item. If there was a permit, I would have to check the permit files. But I would say that even though there may have been a permit for the structure itself, that doesn't necessarily negate the portion of the fencing that it's now become part of. If you can give me one moment, I can take a quick look at the permit files to see if there was a permit issued.
If I may, I'm madly pulling up the file. There was a permit issued and the permit is closed for the pergola. The details on that I don't have before me, but I can advise that a permit was issued for the pergola. I don't know exactly what was included in that permit, but it was approved and signed off.
So there's some deficiency in the drawing that we didn't understand. He was building the pergola as a sort of fence pergola. That only came to light after he finished building it?
It could be the pergola was approved and not the fence portion in between the posts, Councillor.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to identify that now.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I could ask this question of Elena while we're waiting. When we review the fence bylaw, are we supposed to make our decision based on whether or not someone's complained about the fence, or are we supposed to make our decision based on the fence bylaw that we adopted?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my answer to that, we would be basing it on the actual adopted bylaw and what the requirements are for height and any other issues that arise within that bylaw.
Right. And the bylaw is guideline based. It gives us measurements. It gives us a cap on the height, et cetera, et cetera. But it needn't necessarily be complained about. A bylaw inspector could go by and go, "What the heck is that?" and would have the right to bring an item to us and say, "This one's way out of whack." It wouldn't need to be complained about necessarily. Is that the case?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct, Councillor. Although we don't necessarily do proactive complaints,
You
but
don't
we
have time.
Well, yeah, we have come across them, and yes, absolutely, it's part of the officer's job. While out on site, if he sees something that needs to be addressed, he can absolutely address the issue by creating a folder himself and doing a full investigation.
And given, if people build their fences well, if we decide based on, is everyone happy with this fence right now? What happens when surrounding properties change ownership? Could a new owner say, I hate that fence and I just found out the bylaw says 6 feet, so I don't care how long it's been there, I'm going to complain and ask that he has it removed. Could that happen to someone 10 years down the road?
So through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely that can happen. However, in an instance like the item that we have before you right now, if the motion is to grant, then 10 years down the line, if a new owner comes in and places a complaint, then the response would be, we've done some investigating and see that they had requested or had applied for a fence exemption, and it was granted. Therefore, the fence is permitted to stay, or in this case, the portion of the fence that's attached to the pergola would be permitted to stay.
Yeah, so once we grant the exemption.
Remain at the height that
Yeah.
right.
All right.
Once we grant the exemption, it stays there until this owner moves. Yes.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Shaw was looking up. I don't know if he has the answer.
All right. I'm just going to deviate for a second. I'm going to put a motion on the screen. We're extending, we'll put it to a vote, extending past the 12:30 recess to complete the agenda. We really only have a couple of items left. We're actually doing quite well. So we're so close. I will move we extend to finish. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, yeah, no, thank you. And thank you to the staff for your patience. Councillor Carroll, you're kind of over 5 minutes.
Okay, I don't know if you remember, Mr. Shaw was looking, I didn't get one of my answers, but I'm asking the answer. I will let it drop and pursue it later, but I want to make it clear before I turn off my mic. I'm asking that question not because I want to give the resident a hard time. I'm asking that question because I find it very frustrating that these things get approved at one desk and then an inspector comes by and says, hey, you can't do that. That's a situation we've been in before. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of that for this poor resident. How did it get approved in the first place if we really don't want people to build them this way? So that was my reason for pursuing that. But I can pursue it offline and the local councillor can proceed however she wishes.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is confusing. I was told otherwise when I was briefed on this in lead up to this meeting today. I was clearly told that we were not debating the gazebo or pergola, whatever you want to call it, the cabana. That we are instead debating the fence. And so I'm kind of wondering about deferring this, but can somebody provide clarity around that? Because I think Commissioner Carroll, Councillor Carroll was also after that. And I think this is a little bit of I like to call it silo effect, where different divisions are involved in this and there's confusion. So I need to know what I'm voting on. Am I voting on the fence? Or am I voting on a gazebo that apparently had a permit approved and was built, this building? So not a building, this pergola. So I'm very confused because I was told the polar opposite yesterday, and it's hard for me to determine how to move forward without knowing that piece, that element of this discussion.
If I may respond, Councillor, this is a similar situation to which Councillor Pasternak was asking on the last situation. This pergola was constructed and approved to be built within the property line, so it's actually built not on a shared property line, but in the actual property owned by the applicant. Therefore, the application was approved as a structure, a standalone structure. It now becomes a question of how much of a setback do you require before it becomes a fence or not a fence. So I think this may be something that myself and MLS may have to have further discussions on. Because a structure on itself, if those were solid wood walls and constructed as a solid wood walls, the belief is that it would have been approved. The fact that it looks like a fence, kind of, smells like a fence, looks like a fence, sounds like a fence, it's the interpretation then becomes an MLS issue, because does it actually meet the definition under the bylaw of a fence versus a definition of a structure under the Building Code Act?
Okay. You know what? I think these reports need to be clearer, because they're not clear. And certainly we spent a lot of time on this, our office, leading up to this date. We didn't have any complaints from residents that, nobody was emailing in saying they're concerned about it. We thought it was just the fence. So my next question is the fence. How, if we forget about the pergola, separate the two out, and it's just about the fence, and the fence is on a platform, how much higher is the fence than it should be? How much higher? What is the amount that's excessive?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The height maximum is 2 meters, and I believe it is 3.5 meters.
And did you take into account the slope issues that the deputant spoke about, the residents spoke about the slope issues, and also the fact that the fence is not coming out of the ground, but it's on top of the pergola? I don't know. I just need to understand. Did you take that into account?
Most likely that would have been taken into account as well. There is a section in the bylaw that speaks to when there is a difference in grade. So the officer would have also taken that into consideration.
Okay, but you're saying most likely, and I need to know because there is that piece of the puzzle, and I don't know if what I'm voting on here, because you're saying most likely. I want to know 100% if that was taken into account. To be fair to the applicant, the resident, was that taken into account, the slope, the severe slope, and also the fact that it was built off this platform? Can you guarantee that that was taken into account today?
Without looking into the officer's notes, unfortunately, I cannot. I
Right.
don't think that the platform, counselor, is going to make a difference. Where it may have and may make a difference is with respect to the grading. But we take the average grade and then what we would measure from there. But again, without reading the officer's notes, I really can't answer that question today.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Robinson. Any other questions for staff? I don't see any speakers. Councillor Robinson?
Again, I'm not sure what to do. There's two outstanding pieces here. I think we're suffering from silo effect of different divisions involved in this. And I'm not even sure, why it's before us. It does look a bit high to me, like the last application as well. Having said that, I haven't had any complaints from anybody. And usually, trust me, I do. My ward is not shy about speaking up, nor are the neighbors. So the pergola makes it look high. The fence, not such a problem. But I guess I'm wondering what my colleagues would like to do on this, because I would probably grant it, but I don't want to lose. And then this resident suffer from silo effect at City Hall.
I'm going to be moving, granting the pergola. So just to let you know that, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm just
All
going to
right,
move
thank
it.
you. Thank you, Councillor Cole, for that concise speech. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I assume you've concluded as well.
Then I'm just going to move it because
okay,
there's all sorts of missing pieces here.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Okay, so Councillor Robinson has moved option 2, which is granting the application. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries.
Yeah, there's only 4 of us.
Yes, okay, I think we're missing. Okay, so anyway, that item is done.
Could I just have a point of privilege? I'm not even sure what the term is. I just want to say something quickly. Alan Shaw and Elena are incredible city staff. So I don't want to be looking like I'm pointing a finger at them. I think it's the system and the way things are structured. And it's very confusing both for us as a council, but also as for the residents. So I just don't want to, I don't want to, you know, I couldn't say enough about Alan Shaw's work or Elena's. Like, they're incredible civil servants, top notch. So I want to make sure that's clear. But at the same time, there are discrepancies here, and I think the reports need to be clearer. Certainly, my whole team feels that way, because it's just not, if they're not clear, some of them are. This one certainly was not. So that's my.
I'll second that motion. Is that a motion? I'll second it, Councillor.
It is a
No,
motion,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for the second round of speeches. Deeply moving. Can we have to move on to the agenda? That item,
Chair.
that item is done. Granting the application has carried. I'm gonna move back up very quickly to item 1. There's a technical amendment. We'll put the screen. Is something going on the screen or no? Okay, so I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? This is on item.
Quorum call. I hope Councillor Fillion can hear us. We see his chair.
Maybe a warm saucer of milk? Yeah, so Councillor Fillion, we had to go back to item 1, which was held down to fix something in there. It's not a motion, but I would move staff recommendations at this point on item 1. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item is item 40, application to remove a private tree, 37 Bentworth Avenue. There were originally deputants, they have told the clerk they're no longer interested in speaking. So it's questions for staff.
No questions of staff. Just, I think the recommendation I've got is to basically withdraw it.
What do you say?
We only must withdraw the item. They no longer wish to remove the tree.
All right, so Councillor Cole has moved a motion to withdraw the item from the agenda. That means just put it, I don't know, we can put it to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Final item is 5210 Yonge Street, which is Councillor Fillion's. It is regarding Flip Kitchen. We do have a letter here. Is this what we're moving, or did you have something else?
No, it's just a motion. Staff helped me prepare, and thanks to Julie for incorporating the comments of a couple of departments. So that's.
Okay, the motion is on the screen. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Enacting our bylaws. Councillor Carroll, would you like to read that?
Happy to. Item 44, that the North York Community Council pass and declare as bylaws Bills 315 to 324, prepared for the April 20th, 2022 meeting 31 of the North York Community Council.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I guess I have the other one here. So I'll move it. That North York Community Council pass and declare as a bylaw a confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of North York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 31 on April 20th, 2022. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So that concludes our business for today. I must say, I thought we were going to be here all day, so I thank everybody. I thank counselors, our clerk staff, IT, and deputants for participating today. It is so nice to be back at North York Civic Center. So I wish you all the best for the balance of the day, and we'll see you at the next meeting. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody. Happy Pergolas.